The war had burned across the galaxy for many years. Entire planets turned silent. Many civilizations vanished into dust. Every soldier knew the enemy's name, and they spoke it with fear. The Varith stories said the Varith were demons in flesh. They did not show mercy. They did not leave survivors. Children grew up hearing tales of their cruelty. To meet one alive was rare. To capture one was almost impossible. And yet, one cold night on a battlefield far from Earth, a single Varith was dragged into the human camp. The prisoner was a woman. Chains cut deep into her arms, her face was pale and bloody. She walked with weak steps, but her eyes glowed faint silver in the dark. Soldiers turned their heads away, whispering in panic. "Don't look at her too long," one soldier muttered. "She will curse you," said another. "She is one of them." Even hardened warriors kept their distance. Some raised their rifles as if she might break free at any second. Fear spread like a shadow. Captain Elias stood among them. He had fought for years, seen friends die, seen worlds fall. But when he looked at the prisoner, he saw something others did not. Her eyes did not show the hunger of a killer. They showed something else. Something strange. Something human. Fear. The chains rattled as the guards pushed her to the ground. She coughed blood, struggling to breathe. Yet she said nothing. She only looked around at the humans, watching her like a wild animal. "Monsters are not supposed to bleed like us," Elias thought to himself. The commander of the unit, Colonel Brandt, stepped forward. His voice was sharp. "This creature will be executed tomorrow. She is dangerous. Her kind cannot be trusted. Do not speak to her. Do not go near her." The soldiers nodded. Some even cheered, relieved that the nightmare would soon end. But Elias remained silent. His eyes stayed on the prisoner. Night fell heavy over the camp. Fires burned in the distance where ships had crashed. The air smelled of smoke and metal. Soldiers celebrated around the fire, but no laughter felt real. The war had stolen joy long ago. Elias walked past the prisoner's cage. She sat alone, her arms tied, her head lowered. He slowed his steps. Something pulled him closer. She lifted her face slightly and spoke for the first time. Her voice was weak, trembling. "Human, why do you all look at me this way?" Elias froze. He should have ignored her. But something in her tone, tired, broken, made him answer. "They fear you. They fear your kind. Everyone does." The woman let out a hollow laugh. "Fear, yes. That is all they know about us. Fear and lies." Elias frowned. Lies, how could it be lies? The Varith had burned colonies, slaughtered families. Every human knew the truth. Or was it the truth? He felt doubt for the first time. "You killed many," Elias said firmly. "Your people destroyed whole worlds." Her eyes met his through the iron bars. Silver light shimmered in her pupils. "My people, or the warlords who command us," she whispered. "Do you know the difference, soldier?" Elias felt his chest tighten. He had never thought of that. Never imagined the enemy could be more than just one thing. Before he could ask more, Colonel Brandt's voice shouted across the camp. "Captain Elias! Step away from the prisoner." Elias backed off, his jaw clenched. He gave one last look at her face. She lowered her head again, silent. But the doubt had already been planted deep inside his mind. Later that night, Elias could not sleep. The fire crackled outside his tent, but his thoughts burned hotter. Why did her voice sound so human? Why did her words feel true? And why, when everyone else saw a monster, did he see someone begging for mercy? The war had taught him to hate. But hate did not answer the questions in his heart. As dawn slowly rose on the battlefield, Elias knew one thing. This was no ordinary prisoner. She was dangerous, yes, but not in the way the others believed. And in that moment, Captain Elias felt the weight of a choice. A choice that could change not only his life, but perhaps the entire war. The prisoner was not just a monster. She was something more, and Elias was the only one who could see it. The morning sun rose weak and cold over the camp. The battlefield was quiet now, only smoke rising in the distance. Human soldiers moved about, cleaning weapons, repairing armor, and whispering about the captured Varith. Every man and woman kept their distance from the prisoner's cage. She sat inside, her wrists bound with heavy iron, her body leaning weakly against the bars. Her silver eyes were half closed, but still no one dared to meet her gaze. To them she was a predator, even in chains. Captain Elias stood a few steps away, watching. He told himself he should leave, should follow orders, but his boots stayed rooted to the ground. He remembered her words from the night before. "Do you know the difference, soldier? They echoed in his mind like a haunting song. Colonel Brandt marched past with 2 guards. "Keep her silent. Don't let anyone near. Tonight we end her." His words were heavy, final. The guard saluted and moved closer to watch the cage. But Elias could not let go of his doubts. He had seen fear in her eyes. He had heard sorrow in her voice. Monsters were not supposed to feel sorrow. When the guards grew distracted, Elias stepped closer to the cage. His voice was low, careful. "Why did you say lies? What lies are you talking about?" The prisoner raised her head slowly. She looked tired, but her eyes still glowed faintly. "You humans. You think you know the truth. That we came to burn your worlds, that we came as killers. But we were not the masters of this war. We were slaves to it." Elias's breath caught. He shook his head. "Slaves? Your people led the first attacks. I saw the ruins. I saw families slaughtered." Her voice grew sharp, cutting through the air. "Yes, you saw the warlords work. But they are not all of us. My kind were taken long ago. Our leaders sold us into war. Those who refused were executed. Do you understand, human? If you disobey, you die. If you obey, you kill." Elias gripped the bars. For the first time, he felt the full weight of her words. She was not speaking like a conqueror. She was speaking like someone trapped in chains far heavier than the ones around her wrists. He asked, almost against his will. "And you? Which one are you?" Her lips curved into something between a smile and a grimace. "The one who refused, but lived long enough to regret it." A silence fell between them. Elias felt the ground shift beneath his beliefs. Could it be true? Could the galaxy have feared shadows and propaganda, while the real monsters sat far away, pulling the strings? Before he could speak again, one of the guards shouted, "Captain, step away from her." Elias straightened, his jaw tight. He gave one last look at the prisoner. She lowered her head again, hiding her expression, but her words remained burned into his mind. That night, the camp was restless. Soldiers sang songs to mask their fear, but the melody was hollow. The stars shone cold above, uncaring of human or Varith lives. Elias sat alone near the fire, thoughts storming inside him. He remembered his first day of war, the training that taught him to hate. The enemy is not like you. They do not feel. They do not love. They only destroy. But what if that was never true? What if mercy was the only thing humans had that could break the cycle? Elias rose to his feet. His decision was dangerous, maybe even treason. But his heart refused to stay silent. He walked back toward the cage. The guards were drowsy, half asleep from drink. Elias crouched close to the bars. His voice was almost a whisper. "Tell me your name." The prisoner opened her eyes slowly. For the first time, she looked surprised. "Why?" "Because I don't believe you are only your kind. You are more than that. Tell me." She studied him for a long moment, then spoke softly. "Nyara." The sound of it was strange, yet gentle. Elias repeated it under his breath. "Nyara, you should not care," she said bitterly. "Tomorrow they will kill me." "Maybe," Elias admitted. "But until then, I want to hear the truth." "Your truth." Nyara's eyes softened, and for the first time, the silver glow seemed less frightening. She leaned closer, her voice trembling but steady. "Then listen, human soldier. If you really wish to know, I will tell you what the galaxy hides. I will tell you the secret of my people." And as the night deepened, Elias felt the weight of a story that could shatter everything he thought he knew. A story that might cost him his life, but also one that could save the future of both their kinds. The dawn broke red over the battlefield. The air carried the smell of smoke, fire, and burned steel. Soldiers lined up as orders were shouted across the camp. Colonel Brandt's voice cut through the morning like a blade. "Tonight at sunset, the prisoner dies. She is a threat to humanity. No one speaks to her. No one shows her mercy. That is final." Every soldier saluted, their faces grim but relieved. To them, killing one Varith was a small victory against the nightmares of war. But Captain Elias did not salute. He stood stiff, his jaw tight, his heart pulling in 2 directions. He remembered the name she had given him the night before. Nyara. Not the prisoner, not the monster. A name. A life. He watched as the guards tightened the chains on her arms, pulling her to her feet. She stumbled but did not cry out. Her silver eyes flicked toward Elias for only a second, and in that second he saw it again. Fear, sorrow, and a strange kind of strength. The colonel marched away, barking fresh commands. The camp returned to its rhythm of war. Weapons cleaned, ships fueled, soldiers sharpening their hatred like knives. But Elias felt trapped in silence. He could not erase Niara's words. We were not the masters of this war. We were slaves to it. If that was true, then killing her would not be justice. It would be murder. That night, the camp prepared for the execution. Soldiers gathered wood, setting up a burning pyre in the center. Some joked nervously. Others stared at the prisoner like she was a beast in a cage. Fear mixed with excitement. The kind of excitement that came when men thought they would destroy something greater than themselves. Elias sat by the fire, his hands shaking. He remembered the oath he had sworn, to obey orders to protect humanity, to fight until the war was won. But his heart whispered a different oath, to protect the innocent even if the world called them enemy. When darkness fell, the guards dragged Niara from her cage. Chains rattled against the dirt. She walked slowly, her face pale but proud. Soldiers spat at her feet. Some shouted curses. Others held their rifles tight, ready in case she broke free. Colonel Brandt stood tall, his eyes blazing with hate. This creature is guilty of crimes against our kind. Tonight she pays the price. The crowd roared in approval. Elias rose to his feet, his fists clenched. He looked at Niara. Her eyes met his across the firelight. She did not beg. She did not scream. She only looked at him calm, as if she had already accepted her fate. The colonel drew his pistol. He aimed it at her head. Silence fell heavy on the camp. And then Elias spoke. Stop. Every head turned. The colonel's eyes narrowed. What did you say, Captain? Elias stepped forward, his voice steady but loud. She is not what you think. Killing her will not end this war. It will only blind us to the truth. Murmurs rose among the soldiers. Some frowned. Others looked uncertain. The colonel's face twisted with anger. You dare question my orders? She is a Varith, a killer. Do you forget what her kind has done? Elias's heart pounded, but he did not step back. I forget nothing. I saw the dead. I buried friends. But I also saw her bleed like us. I heard her speak, not like a monster, but like someone who has suffered. If we kill her now, we kill a chance to know the truth. Maybe even to end this war. Gasps filled the crowd. Soldiers shifted uneasily. No one had ever spoken in defense of a Varith. The colonel's pistol stayed raised. His voice was cold. You are blinded, Elias. Mercy has no place in war. Step aside or you'll share her fate. Elias's hand tightened on his rifle. He did not raise it, but his body moved in front of Niara, shielding her. If mercy has no place in war, he said firmly, then humanity has already lost. For a heartbeat, silence ruled the camp. The flames flickered. The soldiers stared. Niara's eyes widened slightly, not with fear this time, but with something else. Hope. The colonel's face darkened. His finger twitched on the trigger. You are making a mistake, Captain. Maybe, Elias replied, his voice quiet but unshaken. But it is a human mistake, and it is mine to make. The tension snapped like lightning. Guards raised their rifles. Soldiers shouted in confusion. Niara stood still, her chains clinking softly as the night grew louder around her. And in that moment, with the galaxy's hatred pressing down on him, Elias chose mercy over orders. What came next would decide not only his life, but the fate of everyone watching. The camp was no longer quiet. The moment Captain Elias stepped in front of the prisoner, the air changed. Soldiers whispered, rifles raised, eyes wide with shock. It was not only the prisoner's life on the line now, it was Elias's as well. Colonel Brandt's hand trembled on the trigger. His face was stone, but his voice was thunder. Move, Elias, this is treason. Elias did not move. His boots pressed firm into the dirt, his body a shield before Niara. If it is treason to show mercy, then call me traitor. The crowd gasped. For a second, no one breathed. Brandt's jaw tightened. He gave a sharp order. Guards, arrest him. 2 men stepped forward cautiously. Their rifles shook as they approached. No one wanted to aim at their captain, the man who had led them through countless battles. Yet orders were orders. Elias lifted his rifle, but not to shoot them. He held it across his chest steady, his voice cutting through the fear. I don't want to fight you, but if you harm her, you will have to go through me. The guards froze. Their loyalty cracked between fear of their commander and respect for their captain. The silence stretched heavy and dangerous. And then, in that silence, a new sound erupted. Distant thunder. But it was not thunder. It was engines, every head turned toward the horizon. Shadows of ships appeared, descending fast. Enemy crafts black and sharp like blades in the night. The ground trembled as alarms rang out across the camp. "Varith attack," a soldier shouted. Chaos exploded. Soldiers scrambled for cover, shouting orders, firing up defenses. Colonel Brandt cursed, his plan for execution forgotten. The prisoner was no longer their biggest concern. The enemy was here. In the confusion, Elias turned to Niara. Her silver eyes burned with urgency. "They've come for me," she whispered. "They will kill everyone to silence me." The chains rattled as explosions rocked the camp. Elias's heart raced. He knew she was right. If the Varith warlords wanted her dead, they would burn every human in this camp to make it happen. Without waiting for permission, Elias grabbed the keys from a fallen guard's belt. He unlocked her chains, the iron clattering to the ground. Niara staggered, her wrists raw and bloody, but she stood, her gaze fixed on him, sharp but grateful. "You're a fool, human," she said. "Maybe," Elias replied. "But I'm a fool who believes you." Another explosion ripped through the barricades. Fire lit up the sky. The enemy was closing in. Colonel Brandt's furious voice roared above the chaos. "Elias, what have you done?" But Elias did not answer. He pulled Niara by the arm, guiding her away from the burning pyre. Gunfire echoed around them. Soldiers screamed as enemy ships tore through the camp. Elias knew he had to choose, stay with his unit and follow orders, or trust the prisoner and run. His decision came with no hesitation. He chose her. They ran through smoke and debris, ducking under collapsing tents. Niara stumbled, weakened by her wounds, but Elias held her steady. Bullets whistled past. Shouts and screams filled the air. A group of soldiers spotted them. "Captain, stop. You can't take her." Elias turned, his rifle raised. "If you want her, you'll have to shoot me too." The men faltered. None fired. The confusion of battle swallowed them, and Elias dragged Niara deeper into the shadows. Finally, they reached the edge of the camp. A broken transport vehicle lay half buried in dirt. Its hull was cracked, but its engine still hummed faintly. Elias shoved Niara inside and scrambled after her. He hit the ignition. The machine groaned, coughed, then roared alive. Dust flew as the transport lurched forward, leaving the camp behind. Through the shattered window, Elias saw the battlefield glow with fire. Human soldiers fought desperately as enemy ships rained destruction. The sight cut into him, his brothers, his unit left behind. But if Niara was right, their deaths would mean nothing if she fell back into enemy hands. Beside him, Niara pressed a hand against the cold metal wall, her breathing heavy. "You risk everything for me," she murmured. "Why?" Elias's hands tightened on the controls. His voice was low but steady. "Because war teaches us to hate. But if we forget mercy, then we are no better than the ones we fight." Niara turned her silver eyes toward him. For the first time they softened, the glow dimming with something almost human. Hope. The transport roared into the night, carrying them away from the battlefield. Behind them, flames consumed the camp. Ahead of them, uncertainty stretched like an endless void. Elias knew there was no going back. He had broken every order, betrayed his commander, abandoned his unit. But as long as Niara lived, the truth she carried lived too. And maybe, just maybe, that truth was worth more than his own life. The night was endless as the transport sped through the barren wastelands. The stars above stretched like cold eyes, watching without care. The only sounds inside the vehicle were the groan of the engine and the ragged breaths of two fugitives, one human soldier and one enemy prisoner. Elias's hands gripped the controls tight. His heart had not slowed since the escape. He could still hear the echo of screams from the camp, the roar of ships burning men alive. The faces of his comrades haunted him. He had abandoned them. He had betrayed everything he had sworn to protect. And yet when he glanced at the figure beside him, he felt no regret. Niara sat with her back against the metal wall, her wrists raw where chains had cut into her skin. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark cabin, but their fire was weak. She looked exhausted, close to collapse. "You should rest," Elias said finally. Her lips curled into something between a smile and a sneer. "Rest? Do you think my kind are allowed such things? Even in sleep we are hunted." Elias said nothing. He kept his eyes on the horizon, scanning for enemy ships. Minutes passed. Silence pressed heavy between them. Then Niara spoke again, her voice quieter this time. You risked your life to save me. You betrayed your people. Why? Elias's grip on the wheel tightened. He thought of Colonel Brandt's furious face, of soldiers raising rifles against him. He thought of his oath. Because I saw the truth in your eyes, he said finally. I saw fear. I saw someone who didn't belong in chains. If you are a monster, then so am I. And I refuse to believe that. Niara studied him for a long moment. Her eyes softened, though her voice carried no kindness. You will die for this choice, Elias. Your people will brand you traitor. My people will see you as enemy. You stand alone. Then I'll stand alone, he replied firmly. The transport rumbled on through the wastelands. After some time, Elias pulled it to a stop near a jagged cliffside. Smoke trails still lit the sky in the far distance. He shut the engine off. The silence of the desert pressed around them. We can't stay in the open, Elias said. They'll track us. We need shelter. Niara pushed herself to her feet, swaying. Elias caught her arm before she fell. She looked at him sharply, as if ready to bite back, but then sighed and leaned on him just enough to stay upright. They climbed into a hollow in the cliffs, a cave carved by centuries of wind. Inside it was dark and cool. Elias built a small fire with scraps from the vehicle, the flames flickering weakly. Niara sat across from him, her silver eyes reflecting the firelight. For the first time, Elias saw her face clearly, not as a soldier's enemy, but as a woman. The sharp lines of her cheeks, the tired strength in her eyes, the scars that traced her arms like stories untold. He broke the silence. You said your people were slaves to the warlords. How? Why would they follow such leaders? Her gaze grew distant. Because fear is stronger than hope. The warlords took our world long ago. They twisted our bodies, made us weapons. They promised glory but delivered chains. Many obeyed out of fear. Others obeyed because they knew nothing else. I refused. I was punished. Her voice trembled at the last word, and for the first time Elias realized the depth of her wounds went beyond the flesh. He leaned forward, his voice gentle. You don't have to obey them anymore. You're free now. She let out a bitter laugh. Free? You think your people will accept me? You think mine will forgive me? No, Elias, I am trapped between two worlds. I have no home. Elias looked into the fire. The crackling flames reminded him of his camp, of comrades lost. He too was now a man without a home. Slowly he lifted his eyes to hers. Then maybe we build one together. For a long time, Niara said nothing. She only stared at him, searching his face for lies. But Elias's eyes held nothing except determination. At last she spoke softer than before. You are strange, human, strange, but different. Before Elias could reply, a sharp sound broke the quiet, a faint hum growing louder. Niara's eyes widened. Drones, she whispered. Elias grabbed his rifle and moved to the cave entrance. In the night sky, glowing orbs floated closer, their red lights scanning the ground. Varith Hunter's Niara rose, weak but ready. Her voice was steady despite her exhaustion. They are here for me. If they find us, they will burn this place to ash. Elias tightened his grip on the rifle. His heart pounded, but his voice was calm. Then we don't let them find us. He turned back to her. Can you fight? A flicker of fire returned to her silver eyes. She straightened her back, proud despite the blood and scars. I was born fighting. The cave grew darker as shadows of drones swept across the cliffs. The fire dimmed, leaving only two figures standing side by side. One human soldier, one hunted enemy, ready to face the storm together. The night outside the cave was alive with shadows. Red beams from the drones swept across the rocky cliffs, searching like hunters sniffing for prey. The faint hum grew louder, multiplied, until the sound rattled through the stone walls. Elias crouched low at the entrance, rifle pressed to his shoulder. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the machines. Each second was a blade against his throat. Behind him, Niara stood silent, her silver eyes narrowed, her breathing controlled. They know I'm here, she whispered. They always know. Elias glanced back at her. Then we give them something they don't expect. The first drone floated into sight, its red eye glowing like fire. Elias fired. The bullet struck clean, and sparks exploded as the machine dropped. But the silence broke, and in that instant the other drones swarmed. Blades of light cut through the night. The cave shook as beams sliced the rock. Elias rolled, firing shot after shot, hitting 2 more drones. But more came, their metallic bodies circling like vultures. Nyara stepped forward. Her hands trembled, but not from fear. With a sharp motion, she pressed her palms together. The air crackled. A pulse of silver energy shot from her fingers, striking a drone mid-flight. The machine spun wildly before crashing into the cliffside. Elias's eyes widened. "You can fight with—" She did not look at him. "The warlords twisted my people with power. They wanted us to be weapons. Tonight I will be one, for survival." The cave lit with alternating flashes of gunfire and energy. Elias and Nyara fought back to back, moving as if bound by unseen instinct. He shot the drones that came from above while her silver blasts ripped through those darting too fast for his aim. One drone slipped past, its blade glowing hot as it dove at Elias. He stumbled, rifle slipping from his grip. In that heartbeat, Nyara moved. Her body slammed into his, knocking him aside. The blade missed his throat by inches, carving sparks from the stone. Elias hit the ground, breath knocked from his chest. He looked up to see Nyara standing above him, her arm bleeding where the blade had grazed her. She hissed in pain but fired another burst of energy, shattering the drone before it could strike again. For a moment, time froze. Elias stared at her. She had saved him, risked herself without hesitation. She met his gaze, panting. "Do not waste it, human." Rage burned through him. He grabbed his rifle, rose to his feet, and fired into the night with renewed fury. One by one, the drones fell. Pieces of burning metal littered the ground, their red lights fading into black. At last, silence returned. The night was still, broken only by the crackle of fire from the wreckage. Elias lowered his rifle, his chest heaving. Sweat rolled down his face. Nyara leaned against the cave wall, her arm dripping with silver blood that shimmered faintly in the firelight. She looked exhausted, her glow dimming, but her eyes still held iron strength. "You saved me," Elias said softly. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You saved me first. I returned it." "Do not think this makes us allies." Elias gave a short laugh, bitter but warm. "Maybe not allies, but it makes us alive." He tore a strip of cloth from his uniform and moved closer. Carefully, he wrapped it around her wound. She watched him in silence, her face unreadable. "You don't have to," she began. "Yes, I do," he interrupted. "Because you're not my prisoner anymore. You're my responsibility." Her eyes flickered with something he could not name. She turned her head, hiding her expression. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind over the cliffs. The smell of burning metal hung in the air. Elias kept his rifle close, but his thoughts drifted. The woman who had once been his enemy had just proven she valued his life more than her own. At last, Nyara spoke, her voice low. "You will be hunted now. By your people and mine. There is no safe place left." Elias looked out over the barren horizon, his jaw set. "Then we find one. Together." She tilted her head slightly as if testing the weight of his words. Then, for the first time, she allowed the smallest hint of a smile. "You are reckless, Elias, reckless and strange. And you're not as terrifying as everyone thinks," he said with a half-smile. Her eyes glowed faintly brighter, catching the firelight. "Do not mistake me for harmless. I am still Vayrith. I will fight until my last breath," Elias nodded. "Then fight with me, not against me." The night settled once more around them, but its silence was no longer empty. The bond between them had been forged in fire and blood. It was fragile, uncertain, but real. For the first time since the war began, Elias believed that maybe mercy was not weakness. Maybe mercy was the sharpest weapon of all. The wasteland stretched endless before them. Days blurred together as Elias and Nyara pushed forward, always hiding, always hunted. Enemy patrols passed overhead. Human search teams scoured the deserts behind them. They were two fugitives in a galaxy that wanted them both dead, but the bond between them had grown stronger with every mile. Elias no longer saw Nyara as the prisoner. She was his partner in survival, his equal in battle, and deep inside he knew she carried more than scars. She carried a truth powerful enough to change everything. That truth came to light one night beneath the broken sky. They had camped inside the ruins of an ancient outpost. Its walls shattered, its towers bent toward the stars. Elias built a small fire, while Nyara sat silent, staring into the flames. "You've been holding something back," Elias said at last. His voice was steady, but his eyes never left hers. Back in the camp, you told me you knew the truth of this war. I've risked everything to keep you alive. It's time you told me what I've been saving you for." For a long time, Niara said nothing. The fire flickered across her face, painting her silver eyes with sorrow. Then she whispered, almost too soft to hear, "The warlords are not the true enemy." Elias froze. "What do you mean?" Her gaze lifted to the stars. "The Varith warlords bow to another power, a shadow in the galaxy. They call it the Ascendancy. It is older than my people, older than yours. It manipulates us all, humans, Varith, every world it touches. It feeds on endless war. We are nothing but pieces in its game." Elias's stomach turned. He wanted to reject her words, to call them lies. But deep inside, the puzzle pieces fit too well. The endless wars. The cycle of hate that never ended. The way enemies always seemed to rise stronger, even after defeats. His voice was hoarse. "You're saying humanity fights the wrong enemy?" "Yes," Niara said, her tone bitter. "You fight my people because the Ascendancy wants it. It wants us to bleed each other dry. And when we are both broken, it will rule the ashes." The fire crackled between them. Elias felt his chest tighten, rage and despair twisting together. If this was true, then every soldier he had lost, every world burned, had been part of a lie. Niara leaned closer. Her voice carried urgency now. "That is why they wanted me dead. I was part of the Warlords' Council once. I saw the Ascendancy with my own eyes. I escaped and they hunted me ever since. If I live, the truth lives. If I die, the lie continues." Elias's hands clenched into fists. He looked at her. Really looked at her. Not as enemy, not as victim, but as the only person brave enough to carry the truth of the galaxy. A sudden noise shattered the moment. Engines roaring above. Bright lights cut through the ruins. Ships descended, their shadows swallowing the fire. Human ships. Soldiers poured out, rifles raised. At their front stood Colonel Brandt, eyes blazing with fury. "There you are," Brandt snarled. His pistol gleamed in the firelight. "You've run far enough, Elias. Step away from the creature. You can still live if you surrender." Elias's heart pounded. He looked at Niara. She sat still, her eyes calm but fierce. She knew this moment had always been coming. Brandt's voice thundered again. "Move aside, Captain. Your mercy has cost us enough. This ends now." Elias lifted his rifle. His voice rang clear across the ruins. "No, this doesn't end with her blood. It ends with the truth." The soldiers shifted uneasily. Some hesitated, their eyes flicking between their captain and their commander. The tension thickened like storm clouds. Brandt's face twisted with rage. He aimed his pistol at Niara. Last chance. And then Elias made his choice. He stepped in front of Niara once more, just as he had at the camp. His voice carried no fear, only conviction. "If you kill her, you'll have to kill me too. But know this. When history remembers this war, it will not remember your orders. It will remember who chose mercy, who chose truth, who chose to be human." For a moment, silence ruled. The fire snapped. The soldiers stared, caught between two leaders, and then something unexpected happened. A few lowered their rifles, then more. Their faces showed doubt, confusion, but also the spark of something Brandt could not command. Hope. Brandt roared in fury, but Elias did not waver. Behind him, Niara rose, her silver eyes burning bright. Side by side, human and Varith stood against the lies of the galaxy. The war was far from over. The Ascendancy's shadow still loomed, but for the first time, Elias believed the future could be more than blood and fire. Because mercy had proven stronger than hate. Because truth had found a voice. And because in a galaxy that feared her kind, one human soldier had dared to see her not as a monster, but as someone worth saving, and that choice changed everything.